My name's Rob Nixon, 47-year-old Kiwi, been living in Australia. Moved my family over, family of 4 at the time, in 2002. Recently I've lost 2 of my children to suicide. I first lost my daughter Aria in 2010 to suicide, and then my son Joshua Nixon on Anzac Day 2016. This is his story. This is Josh's story. Yeah, on 17th of April 2016, my son Josh, he up and asked me to come and pick him up to report because he didn't want to go. I went out to Molong where he was living and walked in and seen him, and he said to me, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm here to pick you up, come to see you. He said, "I don't want to go and report." I said, "Why not?" "No, I just want the police to come and get me." He locked me up, and he just broke down in tears and started bawling his eyes out and telling me all these things he's been doing, and that he just wanted to be alone, left alone, locked up in a cell. And I said to him, why do you have to have the police involved? Why can't we, why don't you do a voluntary rehab stint and have a bit of a rest that way? He calmed down and agreed. I said, "Okay, well, get in the car, I'll take you to Orange and report, and let's go and talk about it." And so after we reported down at the Orange police station, must have been probably close to 8 o'clock at night, we drove down to the hospital here. And I drove him through past, we entered in at the main entrance here of the Orange Base Hospital, drove past into the Bloomfield facilities with the thought that somehow, by some miracle, that they'll be open. We drove and done a lap, and it was pretty obvious that it was all out of hours. And so we just did a lap, looked around at everything, and we parked here in this car park here for about an hour, maybe longer, discussing what we need to do, what Josh needs to do to get his life back on track. And he agreed that he needed a lot of help here. You know, he was doing ice, he was doing all sorts of things, terrible things. He was beating up on his missus, scaring his children, beating up his house, his car. He's having all sorts of dramas, and so we sat here and talked about it. And the outcome of that conversation that night was he had court the next morning. He's going to admit himself into Bloomfield, somewhere here, to have a rest and to get himself and his life back on track. So the next day, Josh and I picked him up early in the morning. We went down to the Orange courthouse. His lawyer, Justine Ringbaugh, had just finished dealing with his matter. It was adjourned again, which irritated the crap out of Josh because he'd been trying to get this case all sorted out right from the word go. But anyway, following court, we drove down here again, did the same lap. We stopped at the admin building. We entered in there, and some woman, I don't know her name, she was the drug and alcohol person. I told her that, you know, here's my son. He had his bags packed, ready to face up to whatever he needed to do to get his life back on track. Told her that he was on drugs. She asked what was his drug of choice, and he said ice. That he was suicidal, that he was having a lot of problems at home, dealing with all the stuff that he's going through. He was depressed following the suicide in 2010 of his sister Aria. And she rang the detox department here, and the woman told her that he needs to be assessed and that she will call us to have that assessment done. She said, we'll call us about half an hour or whatever it was. So we drove away, went and had some lunch, waiting for this phone call. The phone rang and received this call from this woman. She rang me because Josh didn't have a phone, he didn't have any ID, he didn't have anything. He's, you know, fairly well into these bloody ice. And she was pretty rude, you know, for a person involved in the mental health industry. She just basically, she didn't introduce herself, she just said, is Josh there? And I said, yep, hang on. And she proceeded to talk to Josh, asked him 3 or 4 simple questions. Your name, your date of birth, where do you live, your drug of choice, and then she proceeded to tell him that we don't have any intakes, we can't do an intake until Tuesday, which was after the long weekend. And I strongly feel that the decision was based on their resources after the long weekend. And it was, well, yeah, Josh didn't make it to Tuesday, did he? He hung himself on Anzac Day, the Monday night.